In our previous video, we covered why digital assets exist and the problems they solve. But how do they actually work? Today, we're connecting the dots, from blockchain to wallets and addresses to transactions and exchanges. Before we dive into how digital assets work, we first need to understand at a high level how a blockchain operates. You can think of a blockchain as a shared ledger of transactions and digital asset ownership, but instead of being stored in one company's database or controlled by one central authority, it is maintained across a network of computers around the world. This is why you'll hear people say Bitcoin runs on the Bitcoin network and Ethereum runs on the Ethereum network. All of these computers maintain and verify the same version of the ledger. So when something changes, like ownership of a digital asset, it isn't updated in one place, it's updated across the entire network. That's what makes it different from traditional systems like banks or payment apps. There is no single company in charge of updating the ledger. Instead, the system updates itself through agreement across the network. Now, within this system, nothing is tied to a name, an email address, or a personal identity. Everything is tied to digital addresses. These addresses are what a blockchain uses to track where digital assets are held and where they move. So when people talk about owning crypto, what they really mean is they can access the address associated with those digital assets on a blockchain network. To access and move digital assets, you use a digital wallet. Everything starts with your wallet. With a name like wallet, you might assume it holds your digital assets. This is not the case. Think of a wallet like a banking app on your phone. Your money isn't stored inside the app. The app simply gives you access to your account at the bank. Digital asset wallets work in a similar way. The blockchain keeps a record of digital assets and the addresses associated with them, much like a bank keeps a record of who owns the money in its accounts. Your wallet acts like a banking app, giving you access to the addresses associated with your digital assets on the blockchain. The wallet stores the credentials that give you access to those addresses. With those credentials, you can interact with the blockchain to send and receive digital assets. This raises an important question. What happens if your phone breaks or you lose access to your wallet? That's where something called a seed phrase comes in. When you create a wallet, it usually generates something called a seed phrase. A seed phrase is a list of simple words that acts as a backup for your wallet. Think of it as a recovery key. If you lose your phone, delete your wallet, or switch devices, the seed phrase is what allows you to restore access. When you enter a seed phrase into a wallet app, it restores your wallet and gives you back the same access to your blockchain addresses and assets. This is important because your wallet is just software. It can be deleted or replaced. The seed phrase is what restores everything. So while your wallet can be replaced, your seed phrase cannot. It is the most important piece of information you have, period. Moving on. Once you set up a wallet, you can interact with the blockchain by sending and receiving digital assets. Let's start with receiving assets. To receive cryptocurrency or NFTs, you need a wallet address. Think of it as a destination. When you create a wallet, addresses are automatically generated for you. Just as someone needs your email address to send you an email, or your mailing address to send you a package, they need your wallet address to send you digital assets. When someone wants to send you cryptocurrency or an NFT, they enter your wallet address as the destination. Once the transaction is processed by the network, the assets become associated with that address. Because addresses are meant to receive assets, they are safe to share with others. Behind every wallet address is something called a public key. A public key helps generate blockchain addresses and plays an important role in how digital asset transactions work. Public keys are designed to be public information. They can be shared openly and do not give access to your digital assets. The important thing to remember is this. If someone wants to send you digital assets, they only need your wallet address, not access to your wallet and especially not your seed phrase, just your wallet address. Sending digital assets works much like receiving them, but with one key difference. When you send a digital asset, your wallet creates what is called a transaction. A transaction is simply an instruction that tells the blockchain where digital assets should move. It includes information such as the sending address, the receiving address, the amount being transferred, amongst other data. Unlike many traditional payment systems, blockchain transactions are designed to be irreversible. Once you send a transaction, there's typically no way to cancel it, modify it, or reverse it. For that reason, it is important to verify the destination address and transaction details before clicking the send button. Before a transaction can be submitted to the network, it must first be authorized. This is where private keys come in. A private key is a secret credential stored in your wallet that proves you have permission to send digital assets associated with an address. Unlike addresses and public keys, private keys should never be shared. Anyone with access to a private key can authorize transactions from the addresses associated with it. Once authorized, the transaction is broadcast to the blockchain network for processing. As the network processes the transaction, its status can be viewed using a tool called a block explorer. A block explorer allows anyone to view publicly available blockchain activity, including addresses, transactions, and their current status. When a transaction is first submitted, it will often appear as pending. This means the network has received the transaction but has not yet fully processed it. Once the network has processed and recorded the transaction, its status changes to confirmed. At that point, the blockchain has updated its record and the digital assets are now associated with their new address. The transaction is complete. So, how do you acquire digital assets in the first place? One of the most common ways people buy, sell, and trade digital assets is through an exchange. Think of an exchange as a marketplace that connects buyers and sellers. There are two primary types of exchanges: centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. A centralized exchange, often called a CEX, is operated by a company. Much like an online brokerage account, users create an account with the company and use its platform to buy, sell, and trade digital assets. Because the company manages much of the process on your behalf, centralized exchanges are often easier for beginners to use. However, this convenience comes with a trade-off. When digital assets are held on a centralized exchange, the company typically controls the wallets and private keys associated with those assets. This means users are relying on the exchange to securely manage and safeguard them. A decentralized exchange, often called a DEX, takes a different approach. Instead of depositing assets with a company, users connect their own wallet directly to a platform and trade digital assets from addresses they manage themselves. This removes the need for a company to take custody of assets during the trading process. Instead, users trade directly from wallets they control. Neither approach changes how the blockchain works. They are simply two different ways of buying, selling, and trading digital assets. One that relies more heavily on a company to manage assets on your behalf, and one that relies more heavily on the user. At a high level, that's how digital assets work. Every interaction comes back to the same core concepts: wallets, addresses, keys, transactions, and exchanges. We greatly appreciate your time and attention. Thanks for watching.